This is CBC Here and Now.
Liberal leader Justin Trudeau makes a brief stop in this province, hoping for a sweep of all 7 seats in next month's election.
It's going to be a wet night in Labrador West, and it's going to move east, and it's going to be humid on the island. Tomorrow, I'll tell you all about that coming up.
The agreement to purchase the Come By Chance Refinery is not a done deal yet.
Sit at the table, come up with something that works. Let's get the refinery open again. Let's get these people back to work.
Coming up on Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Carolyn Stokes. Our top story tonight, a visit from the federal Liberal leader. He's live at Kitty Vitty this evening. We hope to go to that in just a few moments. But first, the OPP has found no criminal conduct in a fatal officer-involved shooting in Corner Brook. On November 27th, 2018, a newly hired RNC officer shot and killed Jordan McKay in the West Coast city during a confrontation. Now, he and the senior female police officer, who was also at the scene, were placed on administrative duties while the shooting was investigated. The province's serious incident response team tasked the OPP with investigating the shooting. Yesterday, the Ontario Police Force announced it found no criminal conduct on the part of the RNC officer involved. Well, there are 2 new cases of COVID in the province to tell you about. One is a woman in the Labrador Grenfell Health region. It's related to travel in Canada. The other is a man in the eastern region, a contact of a previous case. There are now 15 active cases in the province. There's also an advisory for some Marine Atlantic passengers after a confirmed case on board a ferry who may have exposed others on this trip. Health officials say it's aimed at passengers and crew on the MV Blue Petite who crossed last Thursday night from North Sydney to Port aux Basques. Passengers in the seating area of Deck 7 are asked to arrange for a COVID-19 test. This does not involve the cabin area. Anyone who has symptoms should isolate until test results are obtained. Well, students are looking for answers after Memorial University announced vaccines and masks would be mandatory on campus. The announcement came late Friday afternoon with few details. With about 2 weeks until classes start, students want to hear more. Here and Now's Meg Roberts joins us live now. So Meg, how are students and staff reacting to the news?
Well, Carolyn, we heard from both the Canadian Federation of Students NL and MUN's Faculty Association. Both of them said their groups are supportive of the decision. In a statement, the Faculty Association saying it is our opinion that Memorial University should implement these necessary measures. Now, taking a somewhat more subdued stance, CUPE 1615, who represents about 900 administrative, technical, and instructional support staff at MUN, said that members who choose not to be vaccinated can have their rights upheld. The letter went on to say that members who chose to get the vaccine, great, but we do have members who choose not to get it, and these people need to be represented also. Now, when I spoke with the president of CUPE 1615, the messaging was not as clear. President Teresa Antle said CUPE 1615 does support MUN's vaccine mandate. However, she said for certain individuals, they're looking into human rights and charter rights surrounding the mandate and deciding how far CUPE and the local union are able or willing to take it.
Anyone who feels that, they're being forced to do something that they are not willing to or want to do, that will have to be a separate conversation. And, the union, some members involve the union, some will go speak on their own behalf, but it will be conversations that will have to happen with human resources and the health and safety team here at Memorial.
She said out of the 800 members on campus, she believes about 95% are in support of the vaccine mandate. Now, MUN's student union also sent a statement to CBC News saying, "We believe that all students and staff at Memorial should have the freedom of choice and not have their human rights infringed upon due to new norms within society." However, when CBC News followed up for an in-person interview, the student union said it would potentially be reevaluating its stance. CBC has not heard back. Now, the university has said that we are going to get a bit more information on what this plan looks like potentially later this evening. There's still a lot more questions that need to be answered, and the Canadian Federation of Students has lots of those. They told me students are trying to keep up with the changes, and they're concerned specifically for international students. There could be students coming from countries that have vaccines that are not approved in Canada, and students who will not be vaccinated upon arrival. McLaughlin is concerned about the time it will take to access the first and second dose of the vaccine.
Right now, students are feeling a lot of anxiety. They're getting ready to come back to school without a lot of information about what that's going to look like. What we really need to see with that is that students have the opportunity to access the vaccine in a way that's not inhibiting them from accessing their education.
Now, although masks and vaccines will be mandatory at MUN, the English School District says there will be no changes to its return to school plan. In an email, the district said any changes would come on the advice of the chief medical officer. Carolyn.
Thanks, Meg. That's Here and Now's Meg Roberts reporting live. Well, Newfoundland and Labrador's oldest radio station has fallen silent for the moment. VOWR has been off the air since Friday night's thunder and lightning storm when its transmitter was damaged by a possible lightning strike. But the station is still broadcasting online. The volunteer station manager says she hopes the transmitter will still be fixed, but if not, the cost of replacing it could be as high as $60,000, and that money would have to be raised through fundraisers and donations. So in the meantime, you can still listen online at vowr.ca. And if you're driving towards downtown St. John's, you might need to take a different route this week. Barter's Hill between Cabot Street and the intersection of Central Street and Flower Hill is closed until Friday evening for emergency road repairs. Now, the road was first closed early Saturday morning after the heavy rains last Friday evening damaged a section of that road.
Well, welcome to Here and Now. I'm obviously not Ashley Brauweiler. I'm Jeremy Eaton, sitting in for Ashley for another day or two. Yeah, a lot of talk about that rainstorm that happened on Friday. Heavy rains hit the city of St. John's and surrounding areas, and you know what? There's only more rain to come. So it's looking like it's going to be a damp Tuesday, especially in Labrador and in St. John's and the metro area on Tuesday evening. Now, the good news is that some of the humidity is going to return, so it's going to be warm. But as I said, you know, there's a lot of rain, heavy rain expected in Labrador West tonight, and then Churchill Falls and Happy Valley Goose Bay tomorrow. So you might want to get an umbrella. But I'm going to have more of those details and lots more coming up later on.
Thanks, Jeremy. An ExxonMobil worker was injured offshore late last week. On Friday, the oil company reported that an employee on the Avalon Sea Support vessel was injured while testing lifeboats near Hebron. Workers were trying to unhook a twist in the rigging when the vessel moved and caused the rigging to make contact with an employee's face. Now, the extent of the worker's injuries aren't clear, but treatment was needed. The injured person was transferred to the Hebron platform for treatment and then transferred by medevac to the Health Sciences Center, where they were treated and released. The CNLPB is monitoring Exxon's investigation into the incident. Well, an agreement to save the Come-By-Chance refinery has not been finalized yet. The Progressive Conservative Party says an extension that's been granted to get the deal done is raising concerns, but the provincial government says any suggestion that the purchase is falling apart is an exaggeration. Here and Now's Mark Quinn reports.
There was relief in late July when an agreement in principle was announced to restart this idle oil refinery in Come-By-Chance. A U.S.-based equity fund, Cresta, is promising to buy the facility and convert it to make aviation and diesel fuel from used oil. It's expected to mean employment for more than 200 people. But now that a month has passed, the opposition is raising questions about the deal and calling on the government to get it done.
What we're saying to government, that these jobs are too important. that this asset is too important to the people in Newfoundland and Labrador, that they need to come up with a solution that works for all parties involved.
The province says it's doing what it can, but says commercially sensitive information is keeping it from being entirely transparent right now.
We have a lot of people that we have to think about here. We have the future that we have to think about here, and we're not going to jeopardize that for anybody.
At least one of the issues holding things up is concern about the cost of cleaning up pollution at the refinery. In 2014, the provincial government agreed to take on the environmental liabilities of this facility. The Progressive Conservative Party says past negotiations suggest that means taxpayers are on the hook for a cleanup that could cost up to $250 million.
I can't get too much into it. We are dealing with previous deals, especially from 2014, that we're forced to live with what was there. So that does form a part of what's going forward.
Parsons said any suggestion that the deal is doomed is fear-mongering for political gain. He also said a report detailing the cost of environmental liabilities is the property of the group selling the refinery and therefore isn't the province's to release. However, Parsons agreed that once it's fully determined exactly what the province is responsible for, that information will be made public. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, the Newfoundland Growlers have a new head coach, someone who's played several dozen games in the NHL.
Little pass ahead, now the speed of Wellwood, and a goal, he scores!
31-year-old Eric Wellwood will take over behind the bench this season for the ECHL hockey team. Wellwood joins the team after 5 years as a coach in the Ontario Hockey League. Wellwood also played 31 regular season games in the NHL with the Philadelphia Flyers. Now, the Growlers last played in 2019 when they won the Kelly Cup. The team didn't play last season after the ECHL suspended play for its North Division due to risks associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. The team is also still without a lease agreement with the City of St. John's to play at Mile One Centre this year. Well, the international hit musical Come From Away will be back on stage in Toronto in a few months. Mervish Productions is gearing up again in December. Come From Away is set to resume at the Royal Alexandra Theatre on December 7th. All artists and workers will have to be fully vaccinated. Audiences will too, unless they are children or can claim an exemption and provide a negative COVID test taken within 72 hours of a show. Well, a new playground in Gander is bringing lots of new sports to the public. The seniors and family play area has room for bocce ball, horseshoes, lawn bowling, croquet, and shuffleboard. Here Now's Garrett Berry got a tour of the facility last week and just couldn't turn down a good-natured challenge.
Hold me up here.
Ah, there we go.
I spoke too soon.
I've been practicing. Part of the property, it was always meant that they wanted something for seniors on this area. We knew if we were going to put something here that was always in the town of Gander's mind. It had to be something that seniors would use. Generally speaking, when we looked around, well, okay, what recreational facilities are there for seniors? Well, we can go to the parks, walk around, sit at benches and stuff. But myself, I'm starting to get a bit older myself, and I'm thinking, yeah, I don't want to just sit at benches and walk around. I want to be doing an activity and stuff, and maybe a little bit of a competitive activity. So this is something that, whatever level, even you can do this if you're in a wheelchair, you can do this if you're in a walker. You can do this at any level. These are things that I did play some of them as a kid, and I look forward to playing it in the future. And that was our main thought.
Go ahead, take a turn here. Put me out of my misery.
Yeah, let's see if I can bank off your black one.
Ooh. Are there many in the province? Have you seen anything else quite like this?
No, not identical to this. We actually had when we had opening ceremonies, the base was down and people there were from all across the country. And they said, this is really unique. they've seen like places where you might have a horseshoe club or a shuffleboard club or things like that, but nothing to put all these things together, which is more ideal for a smaller community. That yes, you don't need a shuffleboard club, but all these activities in one spot that people can come and play each one for half an hour, 45 minutes, and enjoy 2 or 3 hours. That was sort of the, they found that was very ideal, and it's sort of unique, we feel.
And what does the future hold for this place? Say I come back here 3 years' time, what do you think it looks like?
In 3 years' time, I think what we're going to see is that you're going to have various user groups of different ages. Probably in them, you're going to have seniors having a croquet league, there's going to be shuffleboard leagues, horseshoe leagues, and then there's going to be all throughout the day and evening up until 9 o'clock at night, there'll be different groups and individuals coming in playing the games. It's just going to be one more recreational option that people have. The more options you have, well, the better it makes life in the community.
Draw the button, right?
Yeah. Draw for 10.
Draw for 10. See if I got the weight down. No. Oh, the weight was all right. Angle wasn't very good.
In 3 years, when you come back to see us, I hope you practice between now and then, and we'll have a rematch.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Well, we're watching the path of Tropical Depression Henri, which made landfall in the U.S., and there is wet weather on its way. Jeremy will have the latest coming up. Time for a look at the weather, and Jeremy, some wet, stormy weather on the way.
Certainly is, but there's a reason for that. So just take a quick look at this. So we're following the path of the tropical depression Henri. It made landfall yesterday in Rhode Island and has battered a big swath of the U.S. East Coast with heavy rain and strong winds. Power outages have affected more than 100,000 customers in 4 states. Now, Henri is moving across Massachusetts before going back out to sea and heads for Nova Scotia tomorrow.
Wow.
So this means that part of this is sort of going to affect the weather here. And I'll try to explain it as best I can, but as we all know, I'm more of a weather boy than a meteorologist. So let's just take a quick look at today's high before we get into what I just learned moments ago. So, as you can see, it was a pretty nice day here in and around the province. The high was there in Corner Brook and Badger, hit 27 degrees, 26 in Labrador City, 23 in Labrador City, 26 in Happy Valley Goose Bay. Pretty nice day. Now, it was a little bit chillier up around Twillingate and up in Makovic, but other than that, it was a pretty nice day. But all that's going to end because I am always the bearer of good news, apparently. So what are we sitting at currently? In case you're wondering, Jeremy, what's the temperature right now? Well, you can see it's all right here. We can hit them high and we can hit them low. So we're sitting at a high now of 26 in Corner Brook and 17 in St. John's. But more importantly, you already know what the weather's like because you can look out the window. But this is what we're tracking here now. As you can see, I got to get out of the way. I got to learn this better. So I'm standing right in front of it. So as you can see there, that system there around Labrador, how do I get my hand? There we go. So this is part of that tropical depression we were just talking about. So it's going to bring a band of moisture into the air into Labrador City, which is not good news if you're living in Labrador because you're expecting a lot of rain, about 15 to 25 millimeters of rain. Churchill Falls is also going to get affected by that overnight. Now the heaviest rain is supposed to be around midnight. So we're just going to watch this. Oh, no, we're going to go into tonight, apparently. So what's going to happen here now tonight? We'll get back to Labrador City. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten you. So tonight we're going to sit at about 16 in St. John's. There'll be a bit of rain in Port Basque, a little bit in Gander, and a little bit in St. Anthony. There's no significant amounts here on the island, but that all changes when you go up into the big land. So Nain, Cartwright, you're going to sit at 9 degrees. It's going to be pretty clear there tonight, and I don't know... the Straits is going to be about the same. You're going to get a little bit of rain, but nothing much to worry about. In Happy Valley Goose Bay, you're okay for now, but that'll all change tomorrow. So as you can see, Labrador City, you're sitting at, it's going to be 13 degrees tonight, but you're going to get 15 to 25 millimeters. As I said earlier, the heaviest rain is going to come at around midnight tonight. Now, I'm no meteorologist, but this system could possibly bring some thunder and lightning to the area. So don't be surprised if what we saw in St. John's on Friday, something similar could happen in Labrador City. So if you're sitting in Labrador City thinking, today would be a great night for a party on the deck, probably won't be. Might want to cancel that, save it for another day. So this rain system is going to move through Labrador City to Churchill and into Happy Valley Goose Bay. So this is what we're looking at here now tomorrow. So there is going to be rain in and around St. John's and a little bit in Fairland, but you can see already the green is coming here by Placentia and Marystown. Now they're only going to get small amounts of rain. Same thing with Clarenville and Bonavista. Nothing to worry about, nothing to write home about. Gander, Grand Falls, Twillingate, Harbour Breton, same thing, a little bit of rain, but no significant amounts. Now, as we move across, this is where you're going to see a little bit of accumulation of rain. Burgeo, probably going to get between 5 and 10 millimeters. Port Basque can get 5. Stephenville, Corner Brook, up into Gross Mourne, could be 5 millimeters. Deer Lake, you're going to be okay, probably about 2 to 4. And then as we go up to the Northern Peninsula, you can see, like, I think it's Port au Choix, Lancelot, St. Anthony, you're going to get about 5 millimeters of rain. Cartwright, you're looking at 5 to 10. That's part of that same system that's moving its way across Labrador. So, as we said, look at these numbers here now. So Labrador City, it doesn't end. The fun doesn't end tonight. You're looking at 5 more millimeters tomorrow, 15 to 25 in Churchill Falls, and another 10 to 20 in Happy Valley Goose Bay. Now again, because of the system that's moving down from Henri, there could be some thunder and lightning. I'm not saying there is, but there could be. So, you can see that system's going to move off. Everything's going to move out, and we're looking like a nice day on Wednesday. But we're going to get to that when we get to that later on in the show, and I'll have your forecast for, after Tuesday into Wednesday and Thursday coming up later on in the show.
Thanks, Jeremy. Well, a family from Renew's Kappa Hayden received a very generous gift from the community over the weekend. Mary Guiney and her son Keith, who has spina bifida, received a wheelchair-accessible van. Now, members of the community saw Mary struggle to get Keith in and out of the car, so a fundraising committee was formed, and 3 months later, more than $50,000 were raised to cover the cost of the vehicle. It's a gift Mary never expected to receive.
A couple of years ago, I think probably a year or two ago, she developed some health problems herself, arthritis, and it's just got harder and harder on her. So that's a reason why she never asked for anything in her life. So we knew there was a need.
It's a big thank you to all those who supported this. Anyone that helped in any way, bought tickets, sold tickets, the organisers of this event, right? Anyone helped in any way. I really appreciate it.
Well, as we mentioned off the top of the show, Justin Trudeau is in St. John's for a photo op and a speech. He arrived a couple of hours ago at the St. John's airport, then boarded a campaign bus to take him around the city. He's going to Kitty Vitty Village, spending time in the riding of St. John's East, meeting with supporters. Now, that riding was the only one in the province not held by the Liberals. It was held by Jack Harris and the NDP, but with Harris now retired, the federal Liberals are gunning hard for his riding. So let's have a live look at what's happening down at Kitty Vitty Village. Not a whole lot. You can see some people gathered around, lots of Liberal red there in the background, but no sign of Justin Trudeau that I can see. As I mentioned, we are expecting to hear some words from him. Trudeau was in Halifax this morning where he focused on health care. He held a campaign stop at Dalhousie University where he pledged $6 billion to help reduce healthcare wait lists. And of course, healthcare was a big issue during the recent provincial election in Nova Scotia, where the Liberals suffered a major loss to the Progressive Conservatives. So we're told there won't be any announcements here today, just this quick photo op in a riding that Trudeau clearly wants to take away from the NDP. So still fairly quiet there. So we'll leave this live shot for now and dip back in a little bit later. Coming up on Here and Now, a look at how a small community is fighting climate change with a net zero energy consumption goal. Welcome back. The town of Balleen is trying to help residents fight climate change. Balleen held a Climate Action Day on Saturday to help residents learn about what they can do to help combat climate change. The small town provided information that encouraged recycling, composting, water conservation, and energy efficiency.
So today we're doing the Climate Action Day for the town of Balleen. The event is focused on supporting discussion and engagement around climate action activities that any individual can do, all the way from no-cost behavior changes to, major renovations for energy efficiency. But the idea is really just that we get to talk to people, we can engage, we can talk to them about choices they make related to food, recycling, composting, solar energy, like choice of electric vehicle.
This is part of our outreach to let people know what we're doing as a council. As far as we know, we're the first community in Newfoundland and Labrador to have an objective to come off the power grid and produce our own electricity. So we're hoping that other towns will follow us, and we're particularly hoping that some of our residents may be interested in doing some conversions to solar or wind power, and hopefully this demonstration will show them it can be done.
Well, as folks are enjoying the great outdoors in these final days of August, Parks Canada is warning visitors about a potential exposure to ticks in Terra Nova National Park. Now, the park posted about it on social media yesterday, saying ticks are becoming more common in the area, and there is a small chance of being exposed to Lyme disease if you get a bite. Joining me now to talk more about ticks is Joe Bowden, a research scientist with the Federal Department of Natural Resources and the provincial contact for the National E-Tick program. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Carolyn.
So let's start with why ticks are such a concern. Can you talk about the kind of damage they can do?
Yes, so here in Newfoundland and Labrador, we have about half a dozen tick species, of which we do get what we would call transient numbers of black-legged ticks, or the deer ticks, so those ticks that carry Lyme disease. So there's just one species that we really have to be concerned about in this region. And really, ultimately, I would argue, compared to the mainland especially, that the risk is actually quite low to pick up a tick on you. But again, it's important to be vigilant when we're out there doing our hikes and walking our dogs in the woods and that sort of thing. Ticks are one of these groups in which we know are expanding their ranges northward with climate change. So as an example, something that we hadn't seen really in Canada was this a tick species called the Lone Star tick, which can give you quite a nasty disease that makes you allergic to meat protein, so you wouldn't be able to eat red meats. We're starting to see really high numbers, higher numbers than years before in parts of southern Quebec and Ontario this year. So again, it's one of those species that is really rapidly moving its range northward.
And what can someone do to protect themselves from ticks?
Simple things like tucking your pant legs in your socks or wearing long clothing. Really the most vigilant thing you can do, the most diligent thing you can do to prevent yourself from getting bitten by a tick or picking up ticks is to do tick checks at the end of the day. After you get out there and finish your hike, you get back home, check yourself and check your pets, especially those soft areas of skin, sort of the inside of your arms or backs of your knees, those soft areas that ticks are likely to sort of migrate to if they do get on you to sort of start feeding. So important to do those tick checks. If you look at Newfoundland, the island of Newfoundland, for example, we've had about 50 submissions in the past 2 years. Only about a dozen of those submissions in total have been, I think only about a half a dozen submissions this year have been Ixodes scapularis, or that black-legged tick that could carry Lyme disease again. So the risk here on the island, in contrast, a province such as Nova Scotia has had 3,000 submissions in the past 2 years. Wow. So the risk here again is quite low overall.
And Lyme disease, I've heard of like different celebrities getting Lyme disease, like Avril Lavigne had Lyme disease. They're very vocal about it. And Shania Twain had Lyme disease. It affected her voice. How worried should people be about this disease, and what sorts of things can it do to you?
you might have a headache in a couple of days or that sort of thing. So the acute symptoms or the short-term symptoms are actually can be quite mild. Typically, we see things like target shapes in which that show up from the bacteria that causes the disease after the tick is fed in an area on your skin. We see these sort of target shapes. You can see these appear, and they can range quite a bit. But
like a red ring on your skin.
Yeah, exactly. A red dot with rings around it. But it doesn't always manifest in like a perfect target and things like that. So it's not always a telltale sign. Again, I'm not trying to. I think people, we need to be cautious when we're out walking in the woods. But I think it's something that we shouldn't be, overly concerned about either.
We shouldn't be afraid to go into the woods because of ticks.
Shouldn't. Don't be afraid to go out and walk. Get out there, enjoy the fresh air, enjoy walks in the woods here. I try to do it on a daily basis, and I've never had a tick on me here. Again, the chronic symptoms are varied. I'm not a physician myself, but they can be quite more severe, of course, and that's something that once you get those into that chronic phase of the disease, it's something that they cannot treat at that point, right? So it stays with you for life. So.
Right, something everyone wants to avoid for sure. Joe Bowden, really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us about this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, as we learned earlier this evening, an agreement to save the Come-by-Chance refinery has not yet been finalized. In July, an American-based equity fund, Cresta, promised to buy the facility. It wants to convert it to make aviation and diesel fuel from used oil. Now, it would mean a couple hundred jobs, but the opposition party is raising concerns over an extension that was granted for the negotiations. And the government, however, says negotiations are well underway.
What are you hearing about the deal to purchase the Come-by-Chance refinery?
Well, there's an extension was asked for and granted, and rightfully so. The negotiations are still ongoing. We understand there's a few challenges around the environmental liabilities part of the contract and a couple of other smaller things. And what we're saying to government, that these jobs are too important, that this asset is too important to the people in Newfoundland and Labrador, that they need to come up with a solution that works for all parties involved. This is a valuable asset that's necessary for the people in Newfoundland and Labrador and for our economy. So we're encouraging them to be open and transparent because the families who are on the edge right now worrying about do they have some stable employment in the future need to know that this is being worked on and that there is a solution. There always have been a solution. This is the fourth time the sale of that refinery, and there's always been a solution found that works for all parties involved. So we're encouraging the Minister and the Premier. And while the Premier said this is a business deal between two entities, we disagree because the federal government and the provincial government have a responsibility here around the environmental liabilities. So we're saying sit at the table, come up with something that works. Let's get the refinery open again. Let's get these people back to work so that Newfoundlanders and Labradorians can have some stability in their future.
The report that we've seen suggested that the deal's in jeopardy. Do you expect the deal will go ahead?
Well, it's too early to say anything right now. We're still in the midst of this. That's one of the parts of this department, is that you have high pressure, high stress, very complicated deals that are not just within government. We're dealing with business entities. No different than Terra Nova here, where everybody wants the information right now, but as much as people want to know, I cannot give them this information. I'm not going to screw this up because people are out there complaining in a press release here. That's not doing any good, is what I will say. We have a mandate here to do what's best for the people of this province. Certainly we've been very open. We've had a $16.6 million deal to keep the possibility of a deal alive. So we're going to continue to do what we have to, but that doesn't mean that we're just going to give it away.
When I spoke with the Minister Parsons, he suggested the PCs are raising undue fears. They're fear-mongering by talking about this.
Far from it. I mean, we've heard from constituents that are saying we're not hearing much about what's going on, and other medias have reported that there's been an extension. So when that goes out there, that sometimes gets people thinking, well, why? What's going on? What's wrong? We're asking the government to be open and transparent, explain to the workers and to the union, look, things are still in the works. There's a couple of challenges there that we're going to work towards. They're not ones that we haven't faced in the past, and we can find a solution. But people need to know that so that they can have the apprehension gone, and they can look forward to in the coming weeks and months getting back to work and having a secure future for themselves.
I try to reach early today. You were in meetings, so I guess, is this one of the things you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis?
Absolutely. This is something that we're having conversations over the weekend. We're talking about different parts of this, which is, it's extremely complicated, and I'm lucky to be surrounded by a lot of really smart people, but no doubt there's a lot of work going into this. The problem is it's like the iceberg. The public only sees a little bit, and I understand that the public wants to know, but right now we cannot disclose what's underneath for fear of ruining everything.
And can you give us a sense of when you may be able to speak with us, when you expect to be done?
I wish I could. I wish I could put a timeline on it as soon as possible. I would love to have this done sooner rather than later, because it means it's one more issue that we've been tasked with dealing with, gone to the side and to the done pile, but we're not there. So as soon as it's done, people will absolutely know.
Now back to the federal politicians. We're going to go live now to Kitty Vitty Village, where Liberal leader Justin Trudeau is making a brief campaign stop. So let's listen in.
Opportunities they can. It means building a future in which there are better jobs, greener jobs, even as we transform our economy to be better for the environment while bringing everyone along. These are the things that we need to do. And as we look to that future, Erin O'Toole wants to take Canada back. Backwards is not the way to go. We need to move forward. We know that working together, building a better future is what it's all about. Erin O'Toole won't even tell us and won't even make sure all of his candidates are vaccinated. He won't make it mandatory to get vaccinated to go on a plane or a train. He's taking us in the wrong direction. And by the way, Andrew, he'd rip up the agreement for $10 a day childcare in this country. That's not what we need, not through this pandemic, not into the future. Alors, je suis très excité, mes amis, de l'opportunité que nous allons avoir de travailler ensemble dans les années à venir. Et je compte sur vous, ici à St. John's, à travers le pays, de vous impliquer, de vous faire entendre et d'élire Joanne Thompson. I'm counting on all of you to go knock doors. Get out there, connect with your neighbors.
And that's Justin Trudeau visiting the riding of St. John's East, of course. That seat has been held by NDP Jack Harris, who isn't running again. The Liberals now have Joanne Thompson as their candidate. Trudeau just mentioned her just then. She was the executive director of the Gathering Place in St. John's. The NDP has longtime Labour activist Mary Shortall, who's the outgoing president of the Newfoundland and Labrador Federation of Labour, running for them. And the Conservatives have candidate Glenn Etchegary, who's been a manager in transportation and fishing industry. So as we mentioned, Justin Trudeau making a very brief stop here in St. John's, down at Kitty Vitty Village in the riding of St. John's East, which he, of course, wants to win in this election, taking all 7 seats in this upcoming federal election. So we're told that no announcements have been made. He's just speaking to the crowd there. So that's it for Justin Trudeau. Welcome back. Well, there was another big arrival at Kitty Vitty this afternoon, not just Justin Trudeau. A young man named Zach Chboter arrived on rollerblades after blading across the entire country and breaking a world record in the process. He's calling his ride Blading for Bees, and it's all about something that's close to my heart, environmental awareness and bees, of course. He had a lot of help along the way from his sister Rachel Chboter. Here now, Zach Gowdy met them at the finish line just a couple of hours ago.
Hi, my name is Zach Chboter.
Hi, my name is Rachel Chboter.
And you guys are? We're blading for bees.
Let's go, Zach!
I literally just finished rollerblading across the country. 10,000 kilometers, broke a Guinness World Record, and then we finished here in St. John's, Newfoundland, and jumped in the water.
How was it physically? How do your feet feel?
If I was Alicia Keys, I'd say, my feet are on fire. I'm good. It took a little while at the beginning for my body to get used to it, but if you can mentally focus on something and your body adjusts, it's kind of like a science experiment. It's really cool. The reason we did it was because I originally wanted to do something crazy. I was inspired to do something a little bit off the beaten path, and then I'm really passionate about the environment, and someone was like, oh, you should call it Blading for Bees, and bees are such a good mascot for the environment. If we help them, we help everything. So it was just perfect, and so everything kind of worked out perfectly. Yeah, and I was lucky enough that my sister could come help.
Yeah, it was such a cool way. I drove the support van coast to coast, and it was such a cool way to see Canada. Yeah, so it's a lot of like pre-planning, like you have to know like your route for the day, and a lot of it was kind of figuring out the Guinness World Record rules in terms of like the evidence and all the files and the watch and all the GPS tracking, so that was a lot of the pre-planning.
So the previous world record was held by this guy named Peter in Germany. There's not a lot of info on him, so if somehow he sees this, Peter, reach out to me. I want to say hi and sorry, I can't. And so the previous record was 8,596 kilometers, and I broke that we were right along the border of New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. Mm-hmm. Really cool moment as well. We knew we still had about 1,500 kilometers to go, so we were still in the zone and focused. We had a little celebration that night, and then we kept going. So yeah, the current record, I guess now is a little over 10,000. We'll figure it out. We got to do all the proper addition to make it official. It feels really good. It's a little bit surreal, I think, because living in a van the whole summer, we've both had so much time to think about it and wonder like what's gonna happen, what's it gonna feel like. So I think it'll take maybe 2 hours, maybe 2 days. We'll see. But right now I'm just happy to be done, and I don't have to wake up and rollerblade tomorrow, and she doesn't have to wake up and
try to get him to rollerblade.
Yeah.
2, 3.
And then now we jump. Ready?
So as we mentioned, Liberal leader Justin Trudeau was in Halifax and St. John's today, and now we'll take a look at what the other federal party leaders are up to.
Our public and universal health system is a pillar of our social safety net as Canadians. I not only support it, I will defend it and build it up with an additional $60 billion is our commitment in Canada's recovery plan.
O'Toole went on to criticize Justin Trudeau and the Liberals for running a divisive campaign and using misleading American-style election ads.
Commitment is we will end fossil fuel subsidies, unlike Justin Trudeau, who promised to do so but has increased them. And we want to make direct investments to workers to support them. We want to create good jobs. We want to invest in renewable energy, and we want to clean up our environment.
Meanwhile, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh is focusing on the environment in Montreal today, campaigning in Justin Trudeau's home riding. Singh says the NDP would even cut programs that subsidize the cleanup of orphan oil wells and funding that helps resource companies transition to a low-carbon economy.
We're looking at a live shot of the Parkway here in St. John's. A little bit overcast, but there is some wet weather on the way. Labrador, you're going to want to brace yourself. I'll tell you why. Coming up. I already told you why, but I'll tell you again. Coming up. All right, that's what we're looking at here. Looking at.
Oh, no, wait.
Sorry, I was gonna.
False alarm.
I was just gonna jump right on into it. How's it going?
Well, we're here looking at the long-range forecast now. How are things looking down the road this week?
Not good.
Not good?
No,
Really?
it doesn't look great. There's a lot of rain coming in, and that's because of that tropical depression is bringing tropical moisture, which is going to come up in through Labrador, and then it's going to make its way down through parts of the island. But Labrador is going to get the hardest hit. And I'm sorry, I'm a big fan of Labrador. Lived in Labrador City for about 1.5 years, as some of you may recall. But let's start off with tomorrow, because as you can see, there's a lot of arrows on that map. That you can see there's just down here. I was going to show you my feet for some reason, but you can see there's a little bit of a system there moving in. But as you can see, St. John's, you're going to sit about 24 tomorrow. You're going to be 24 in Gander and Grand Falls, Windsor. As you can see, there's a few rain clouds there, but there's no big amounts of precipitation tomorrow. But tomorrow night, that's going to change. So you're looking 21 there in Marystown. You could get 2 to 4 tomorrow. In Port aux Basques, you might get a little bit of rain, but not too much. But then if we move up into Labrador, I think that this is sort of where you're going to see a fair bit of, now I wasn't smart enough to get the numbers in the second time around, but I did it the first time around. So basically, from memory, we're looking at about 15 to 25 in Churchill Falls, which isn't on the map, but you can see it's between Happy Valley, Goose Bay, and Labrador City. And Happy Valley, Goose Bay is going to be looking at about 10 to 20 millimeters of rain. Cartwright, you're also going to get, I think, between 5 and 10 as well. The Straits is going to get a little bit of rain. So it's going to be rainy pretty much across the island, and it has to do with those weather systems that are coming up from the United States. So let's take a look at the future tracker. As you can see, so this is Wednesday at 4 a.m. So this is when it's all sort of moved off and gone. But if you can see down here, obviously in St. John's, that doesn't look good. And I'll tell you what's going to happen. So in and around here, and so it's going to be St. John's, Bay Roberts, Cape Race, Placentia. You're looking at about 15 to 25 millimeters of rain in those areas. So that's going to happen Tuesday night and into Wednesday morning. And then as you can see now, when I press the magic button on my little remote control, that system's going to move out. And you're like, cool, looks like it's going to be nice. But it's not, because there's going to be another system come in, and we'll get to that real quick. So the look ahead, Wednesday is shaping up to be a pretty nice day. It's still going to be, it's warm anyways, so that's always a plus. So Grand Falls, Windsor will be 27, Labrador City 19, and after all that rain, you're going to get a bit of much deserved, much needed sunshine. You're looking at 24 down in Port aux Basques. 13 in Cartwright and 17 in Nain. So, but I think this is what I wanted to show you. So coming up here behind me, you can see over Labrador City and into Happy Valley. Look at the size of that system coming in. So that's going to bring more rain to Labrador. So you're going to have the rain tonight and tomorrow in central Labrador. You're going to have a day off and a bit of sun, and then the rain's just going to come back. So the look ahead there, you can see all those temperatures, but we're just going to scan through this sort of really quickly here. But just look at these 5-day forecasts. It's kind of depressing. Rain, 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 rain. And then we're going to go with, oh, look at that, more rain. That looks great. The temperatures are high, which is a good thing. But you're going to get a little bit more rain, a bit of sun at the end of the week there in western Newfoundland. And I'm just going to walk out eastern Labrador, and we'll look at western Labrador now as we try to shut this down, because I went too long trying to educate you all on what I learned. So anyways.
Great job. Very smooth.
Oh, yeah, so smooth.
Good night, everyone.